what I truly believe is that our soul came here with certain things to work on, and they just keep showing up again and again in like a spiral. Like each time we go around the spiral, we just kind of chip away at that limiting belief or that lesson or that thing we came here to work on. We don't do it all at once necessarily. I mean, there may be special circumstances. We just kind of keep spiraling and evolving. And each time we go around, we're like, oh, I see this a different way. Or, ooh, I showed up a little bit more confidently here. And it can be really easy to just kind of be down on ourselves. Like I do that a lot where I'm like, oh, I should have said this, or I should have talked about the podcast in this way. I've made such improvements in talking about my podcast in public. Like I used to really hold myself back. I'm like, oh, I don't want to seem like too much or too pushy. But I really stepped into a beautiful place where I can share it with confidence. But there are still times where I'm like, oh, I should have brought it up there. And I can shame myself. And no, like love and compassion with yourself always. We are learning. We are human. We make mistakes. We're not perfect. We're not here to be perfect. So just remind yourself you're going through that spiral. Each loop around, you're still like learning that lesson, and that's okay. Welcome to Alignment Adventures. This is a podcast where we explore what it means to live a fulfilling, aligning, and present life. I'm your host, Linda Tanner, and I am so grateful that you are here. Hello, my loves, and welcome back to Alignment Adventures. I hope you all are doing so well. And as you can hear in my voice, I have been sick this past week. I actually got COVID again, which I am so in my own little world. I didn't realize that COVID was still going around, but I guess it is. So that is something that I've been dealing with this week. And as you guys know, or may not know, I always see when I get sick as a sign, a loud sign from the universe to slow down. Slow down. There's something I'm rushing through, or I need to slow down to realize something, or my soul just truly wants rest. I think my soul honestly manifested this sickness because we were so busy there for a while, and I knew I was just craving true rest, which isn't always easy to obtain as a new mama, but it's not impossible. You can do it. It's not impossible. So I was able to take a few days to incorporate more rest, and it felt so good, and my soul was so happy. So just a new way to look at illness or sickness when you get sick, or when you get a cold, or if you get COVID. You know, there's so many ways we can look at things, and I always choose to look at everything in my life as it is happening for my highest good. And that is my choice, and it serves me. And you have that choice too. So what I want to do this week is I just want to catch up with you. I have a list of bullet pointed things that have been in my awareness recently. I'm calling it my spring message, my spring catch up episode, which maybe that'll be a thing with the seasons. You guys know I've been super into aligning what I do with the seasons of our earth. That feels so good and so resonant, just like a deep remembering of we can live by the season. So maybe I'll do this each season. I don't know. But with the spring season, do know that I have a spring equinox yoga flow up on my YouTube channel. And I also will be uploading this week, sometime around when this episode releases, what I'm reading this spring. That's been so fun to do, just go through the books that I've been reading and what I've been enjoying, because I really read a variety of books anymore, from fiction and nonfiction to witchy books to non-witchy books, and just all over the place. But that's been my vibe this spring, especially. I mean, I've always had that vibe, but just tuning into what feels good for me. And that is a word I'm allowing myself to use more and more, because it just feels good, like a little bit witchy, a little bit hippie. That's my style. That's my vibe in this season of my life. And I hope that just gives you permission to take on a word or an identity, because these identities we take on are not really our true selves. And what I mean by that is our true self is we are awareness, we are consciousness, and we get to choose which identities we resonate with. We can hold so much importance in those words and those labels. So I just encourage you to be playful with that and allow yourself to explore with those different identities. Maybe you do resonate with the word witch or the word hippie, or those are just fun ones to me. And we've been watching Daisy Jones and the Six. This is a random tangent, but every single outfit they have on in that episode, I'm like, I need that outfit. So that's another thing you can be playful with, is your wardrobe. And is that a true expression of you, or does it make you happy? Does it align with you? Because there's so much noise about what you should and shouldn't wear, what you should and shouldn't be. Should is also a word I'm actively trying to take out of my vocabulary. Okay, so random tangent, but I'm coming to you today with my spring message. So the first thing, like I said, is just allowing myself to have intentional rest. I truly believe when we get sick, like I said, it's a sign from the universe to slow down. And I really like seeing what type of sickness is coming up, how that relates to something that's going on with me emotionally or physically. As you guys know, I believe that sometimes when we don't fully feel an emotion, it can get stuck in our body, and that can cause illness. I just find it very interesting to play around with this. And initially I thought it was my allergies that were bothering me. I did not think it was COVID. Again, because in my awareness, COVID wasn't around anymore. Like, I really limit my intake of the news. I try to stay informed, but in a way that feels aligning to me. So I didn't even cross my mind that I had COVID. I thought it was allergies. And I looked in my Louise Hay's book, You Can Heal Your Body, and she's got a list of common ailments and how they could be related to certain emotional or mental things. Well, allergies is connected to not stepping into your power, which when I read that, I was like, ooh, I can feel that in my body. I know I'm holding myself back in certain ways, or not showing up as my highest self, or not showing up confidently and without holding myself back, sharing my message. Something I'm working on. But you know, guys, what I truly believe is that our soul came here with certain things to work on, and they just keep showing up again and again in like a spiral. Like each time we go around the spiral, we just kind of chip away at that limiting belief or that lesson or that thing we came here to work on. We don't do it all at once necessarily. I mean, there may be special circumstances. We just kind of keep spiraling and evolving. And each time we go around, we're like, oh, I see this a different way. Or, ooh, I showed up a little bit more confidently here. And it can be really easy to just kind of be down on ourselves. Like I do that a lot, where I'm like, oh, I should have said this, or I should have talked about the podcast in this way. I've made such improvements in talking about my podcast in public. Like I used to really hold myself back. I'm like, oh, I don't want to seem like too much or too pushy. But I really stepped into a beautiful place where I can share it with confidence. But there are still times where I'm like, oh, I should have brought it up there. And I can shame myself. And no, like love and compassion with yourself always. We are learning. We are human. We make mistakes. We're not perfect. We're not here to be perfect. So just remind yourself you're going through that spiral. Each loop around, you're still like learning that lesson, and that's okay. So that is one thing that I've been aware of with, being sick and my intentional rest. Now the next thing, I'm just kind of going down my bullet points here, so hopefully this seems continuous. The next thing that I've been thinking about recently is harmony, and how we don't see a lot of shows, or at least I don't see a lot of shows. Again, I kind of limit what I take in and what I consume about harmony. Like a lot of the shows we watch are about drama and conflict or true crime or, the suspense. And it's understandable because those are entertaining to watch, but we just don't have a lot of examples of a show about harmony. Now, if you have some shows that are just about harmony, let me know, and I want to check them out. But I just find that interesting. Like, why are we not seeing more harmony in our media? Again, I can tend to want to go down rabbit holes and want to blame things on society, but we'll connect back to that later. But just something interesting that's been popping up. And I think we are shifting to a society that is going to be more in harmony. And that's why things seem crazy sometimes, because we're kind of like shaking out all the things that are not in harmony. But we're definitely moving that way and being harmonious between ourselves and living in harmony with the earth and living in harmony with our truest selves. It's all kind of falling into place slowly but surely, I believe. Now, the next thing I want to bring up, and I actually saw this on a TikTok, which I'm really trying to honor my time limits on social media. I've not been the best at that recently. You guys know I took a social media detox at the beginning of the year. Totally changed my mindset about social media. But again, I'm human. I make mistakes, and sometimes I go over my time limit. But I saw a really interesting TikTok saying like it's not a coincidence that this time of year all the religious holidays coincide with like rebirth or resurrection or things starting anew. Because that's what's happening in spring, right? And that is what my heart is telling me to celebrate, is like the seasons of the earth. And spring is a time for rebirth and planting seeds, literally and figuratively. Like we are taught by our calendar year, which I don't know the history of like why we have the calendar year that we do. That would be interesting to research. But like our new year is in the dead of winter, when we have like sacred rest and like things are at a standstill. But yet that time of year we're like, oh, you got to go to the gym, you got to change your life, you got to do this, you got to do that. Really, I believe the new year starts with spring, and that's when the new year for the zodiac is. It's a new zodiac year in the spring. And that makes sense. Like, how many of you are feeling that burst of energy wherever you live, to maybe do some spring cleaning, or to start a new habit, or to start something new, or maybe you're just feeling that new regenerative, new energy feeling in spring. And that's because this is truly the new year in my mindset, my perspective. That's how it feels aligning to me and resonant for me. So again, it's not a coincidence that all the holidays are around that energy as well. They know that, you know, from ancient times, that there's that energy in our reality that helps you start things anew and, you know, start things that are really going to serve you, and maybe have a rebirth of some kind, going back to that spiral. Like each time you go around the spiral, you're kind of like birthing a new version of you. I saw a quote in one of the books I was reading that said, like, you're not just born when you're born from your mother. Like, yes, that is when you are brought into this earth plane, but you are born again and again and again throughout your lifetime. And just such a beautiful way. I'm like also deeply fascinated by birth now, since going through birth, and I'm excited to do that again someday and to tap into that energy more. But again, that's a whole nother episode. I would like to have some birthing experts on here. We'll see if we can manifest that. But embrace maybe a new rebirth that you're feeling right now. Maybe you're feeling a new version of yourself, or showing up as a different person. A lot of times when we resist that, that's where the suffering comes from. So can you embrace that new version of yourself this spring? It may be something small, it may be something big, but just embrace that a little bit more. Harness the energy of the earth, the massive Mother Earth, and her rebirth to help you with your rebirth. Now, another thing that's been really pertinent in my reality recently, again, I'm just kind of going down my list of things I want to share with you all, is judgment. Now, I've done specific episodes on judgment before. You can go and search those if you want to. But I've noticed judgment coming up a lot for myself, like me judging people. And then also being very triggered when I feel like people judge me. And isn't that interesting? Like, I'm doing to others what I get triggered by when I feel like they're doing it to me. So just something to be aware of. Again, this is how I choose to see my reality, but when things come up that trigger me, I know it's always a reflection to go within. And I'm not saying you just let people off the hook, you let them stomp all over you, because it's, you know, all within you. This is going to lead us into our next thing. But just take some time to breathe and go within when you get triggered. Like, why are you feeling this way? I've noticed a lot of times it goes back to something that's happened to me before. And maybe I just didn't deal with it fully. Or maybe it just comes from a belief that I've taken on that, again, doesn't serve me, because beliefs are dynamic. They can change, and I can change them. So that's just something I've been really aware of. I'm really trying to be conscious of my judgment. Like, obviously I come on here each week and I share these things with you because I'm so passionate about it. I just believe that this way of looking at life is so useful and can help so many people live present, fulfilling, and aligning lives. And a lot of times I believe in that so much that I can be judgy about people that don't live this way, which goes against everything that I preach on here. So just be careful with that. we can hold strong convictions, and that's beautiful. And it's always something to be celebrated when you have clarity on what you want in your life and what you believe in, but also just be aware of the other side of that coin, that a lot of times we can be judgmental about that. And, that's just how we interpret our world. I think in my first episode about judgment, that's what I said. Like, as humans, we just naturally judge because we're just trying to make sense of our world. But just having some open-mindedness when it comes to what other people are doing, and we're all on our own unique paths, and you got to find what's aligning to you, just doesn't hurt anyone. And I think we could definitely use more of that. So if you're like me and get triggered by people judging you, or you feel like people are judging you, just take a look inside yourself and how are you judging other people? Because the universe tends to be a mirror of all the things that we need to work on internally. Our external world can be a mirror for our internal world, which is confronting and beautiful at the same time. So that leads me into my next thing that I want to share with you all, which I'm going to go into so much deeper next week. I've been putting off my episode on what I learned from my Abraham Hicks workshop because it was so beautiful, so aligning, so magical. I just want to do it justice, and I can feel perfectionism coming up there. But I was also sick, and I want to look through my notes. Like, I have pages and pages of notes from that workshop. It was so much fun. Highly recommend it if you feel the call to go see Abraham Hicks and they are coming to a spot near you. But I'll explain all of that in my episode, what it was like, what's actually happening, because people get confused when I talk about Abraham Hicks. But one of their main messages, which again I will go more into in that episode, was personal responsibility. And this is a hard one. This is a hard one for a lot of people. And I think this is also why we're seeing such major shifts in our society, as people are starting to take on or really hone into the fact of they are responsible for their reality. You are the creator of your reality. And with that comes a lot of personal responsibility. And a lot of times we can want to blame external circumstances or someone that did us wrong for what's happening in our life. But truly, the only person that can create change and sustain change and create a life that is aligning for you is you. When it comes to law of attraction and manifestation, you are an attractor. You are a creator by definition. And the energy and the vibration that we're holding is what is creating our reality. So what I want you to take away from this message is just like, I know that can be confronting, but that's also super empowering. Like, you get to control your life. You get to control your reality. We cannot control other people. We cannot control how other people think, how they vibrate, what they're attracting. You can only control your point of attraction, which is like one of Abraham Hicks's main messages. So when you're feeling overwhelmed, like you're wanting to control another situation or control something outside of you, or you're feeling like a victim to something, just come back to the fact that you are the creator of your reality. Breathe, stop, go within, and just remember, like, taking on that role of the victim doesn't serve us in the long run. We may have to stop there for a little bit to process something, but like keep moving past that label of victim. And I know there are extreme cases. Like, my mind wants to bring up like the extreme cases, like, Lindsay, what about this or this? People have had truly horrific things happen to them, and I have so much compassion and empathy and love for those people. But when it comes to more of like the day-to-day stuff, like, I don't have the answers for everything. I just want to say that up front. I do not have the answers for everything. I am learning this along with you guys. But when it comes to like the day-to-day stuff, when you're feeling unaligned, stuck, unmotivated, just low vibration, remember, you are the controller of your vibration, and you can navigate that to where you want it to be. You are the creator of your reality. You hold so much power. And when you realize your personal responsibility, like, and I know responsibility is a heavy word, but when you realize the personal power, let's phrase it like that, the personal power that you have, it just, man, that's when things get spicy. That's when things get exciting. That's when things really start to fall into place for you. So again, I'm going to talk more about this in next week's episode or whenever the Abraham Hicks episode comes out, but just wanted to mention that here. So the next thing I want to talk about is my definition of spirituality. I would consider this podcast like a spiritual podcast. Like I definitely talk about spirituality and consciousness and just basically how to live your best, most aligned life, right? Well, I think the definition of spirituality can get misconstrued. Like it kind of goes along with religion, and you guys know, or maybe you don't know, how I feel about religion on here. It's something that I'm so interested in and also struggle with the idea of, and I just have a lot of thoughts on religion. Again, that could be a whole nother episode. But when it comes to spirituality, again, we can connect that to judgment, but it's really just connecting to your spirit, connecting to you. And I think that's my problem with religion, is sometimes that gets in the way. Like you think you have to go to an outside person or an outside thing to connect to yourself, but you have all the power within you to connect to you. And I think, again, this is a beautiful time of year to do that in this rebirth time, to reconnect to your spirit. So don't get like turned off or, back away from the term spirituality, especially if you're like me and you like have some qualms with religion, or maybe you don't. Maybe, you're judging me and what I'm saying about this. I don't know. We could spiral in many different ways, but keep it simple. Spirituality is just you connecting with your spirit. We're dimensional beings, mind, body, spirit, soul. Just take some time to connect with your spirit. Meditate, go on walks, go out in nature, journal. So many different avenues you can take. And such a beautiful time to do that. So last two things I want to talk about in my spring message. Again, I heard this in another video I was watching. Kaylin, I think her name is Kaylin Nicholson on YouTube. I love watching YouTubers. I love finding people that I just resonate with their energy. I watch people from just like living their everyday life to like doing witchy stuff to people living in vans and RVs. Like, if you saw who I was subscribed to on YouTube, you'd probably be like, this girl's all over the place. But that's what I love about YouTube is it's just such a beautiful place to find people with different energies and find things that inspire you. But what Kaylin Nicholson was talking about in one of her videos was how it can be overwhelming and disheartening to focus on the things of society that kind of go against the way of life that we're talking about here. And what I mean by that is like consumerism and patriarchal things. And it just seems like there's so many extremes in the world. This is what I talked about last week, right? And it's really just about finding that middle ground, finding that harmony. We don't have to be extremes. And I think the extremes are a little overwhelming to our spirit and our soul. So just remember that we don't have to be all or nothing. We don't have to be extreme. You can find the middle ground. And it's not necessarily about taking down all these things. Like I always see, the people that I follow, they're always like, take down the patriarchy. And yes, I think there have been some unconscious energies that have been control and in power of our society for a long time. And it can seem very overwhelming of like, how do we take that down? I think on the individual level, finding our own peace and harmony, finding our own middle ground, and then showing up with that energy is how we do that. Her example was, we're not going to just stop consuming stuff. Like by nature, we are consumers. We're also producers. We're also creators. We create things, but we also consume things. So it's not just like completely eliminating consumerism or going straight from a patriarchal to a matriarchal society, which I do think we could definitely incorporate some more feminine energy into the powers that be for sure. But it's like finding that balance, that harmony again. And spring equinox, we just had it, is all about, the harmony, the balance of day and night, the dark and the light, the masculine and the feminine. It's just so funny. It all connects. This is perfect for my spring message. So what I want to leave you with before we wrap up this episode is, what are you focusing on this season, this spring? As Abraham Hicks says, what is your point of attraction? We all have a point of attraction. What is yours? What are you focusing on? What are you letting into your reality? And can you shift that? Can you keep coming back? Can you keep moving up the emotional scale? Can you keep coming back to your own alignment? It's not about doing it perfectly. It's not about shaming ourselves when we're imperfect, because you guys know I'm human too, and I'm also imperfect. But it's just about coming back and back and back again, and just being loving and compassionate and kind to ourselves. Just be kind to yourself. Like, give yourself the nutrients that you need, and give yourself fresh air and some movement. Just be kind to yourself and focus on your own point of attraction. So I hope this was useful. Again, it kind of seems like I was all over the place, but these are just things on my heart that I wanted to share with you all. Hopefully my nasally, cold COVID voice wasn't too distracting for you throughout this episode. And again, if it feels aligning, take one thing and implement it into your life, or just chew it over, meditate on it, whatever feels right to you. All right, my loves, so please share this episode with anyone that you think needs to hear this message. Please leave a review on Spotify or on Apple Podcast if you have not already. And if that feels aligning to you, that is just such a beautiful way to support the podcast. And share any takeaways you have with me over on Instagram. I've been over there. I'm trying to find that balance, again, that harmony with social media, because it's such a beautiful tool, but can also be stressful and unaligning sometimes. But share any takeaways you have with me over on there. And your stories, you can tag me at Lindsay with an A.M. Tanner. I'm sending you all so much love, all the highest vibes. And of course, I will see you next week on Alignment Adventures.